My name's Colin, this is my channel, the ANA or My channel, and I live in Bath, and that is where you currently find me, stood on the banks of the River Avon, just there, and it is currently just past 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, because I am going to Cambridge for the Cambridge International Film Festival on that Flixbus. So yes, I'm seeing 4 films in Cambridge and I'll be telling you all about them, but it's really early. I didn't get much sleep last night. It's going to be pretty hell. I mean, the most economical way to do it is get a coach to London and then get the train from London to Cambridge, going all the way across the country. I mean, it's basically crossing the entire southern half of the country, going from Bath to Cambridge, but that is what I've chosen to do. So yes, in this video I will be reviewing the Icelandic Oscar submission, All That Remains, Bradley Cooper's new film, Is This Thing On?, a curious documentary that I needed a gap to fill, so a curious little documentary called The Zodiac Killer Project, and finally the Palestinian / Jordanian film All That's Left of You, which Jordan has submitted to the Oscars for inexplicable reasons, and yes, I'll be discussing that later when I see that tomorrow, because I'm spending the night in Cambridge. So yes, I better go and get on my coach. London King's Cross Station on a Saturday. Harry Potter is still very, very popular. So, I have now made it to Cambridge via King's Cross Station in London. It was remarkable just how many people were queuing up to take a photo opportunity next to a blank wall, thanks to those books.
Platform 9 But Hagrid, there must be a mistake. This says platform 9 3/4. There's no such thing, is there? All right, Percy, you first.
And the fact that it's still so popular despite what J.K. Rowling turned into. But anyway, here I am in Cambridge. That is the Picture House above the Wetherspoons, which is a bit of a weird one. But yes, the Arts Picture House in Cambridge is the sole venue for the Cambridge International Film Festival, which is handy since I could buy tickets on my app with the same app I use for the Little Theatre in Bath. Just about to head into my first of 4 films over the next 2 days over this weekend, which is the Icelandic film The Love That Remains. So yeah, there's suddenly quite a bit of traffic and it's a busy pedestrian street anyway, so yes, I will see you later. Okay, so one thing I didn't account for when I bought my tickets to the Cambridge Film Festival is that today is November 1st, which means it is the weekend before Bonfire Night. So there's a fireworks display, or at least one fireworks display. I think they're coming from different directions, but there's definitely one behind me, and hopefully you could be able to pick up some fireworks behind me. So yes, I'm in Cambridge. I'm standing on Parker's Piece, which is a large open green area very close to the Picture House Cinema. I honestly don't know that much about the history of Cambridge. I've only been here a couple of times, and My mother was born in Oxfordshire, so in the Oxbridge rivalry, Cambridge has definitely, in my family, always been the other place. So yes, I might try and find something historical to look at tomorrow in Cambridge, but for right now, this is a large open piece of ground, and it was given to the city by somebody named Parker, I think. I don't know. I know they play cricket. There's a cricket pavilion over there. Or yeah, whatever. So yes, the first film I saw at the Cambridge International Film Festival 2025 was The Love That Remains. And yeah, this is the third film I've seen directed by Cliona Palmerson, and in all three of them he has cast his daughter Ida Meckin Hlinsdottir in the film. In the first film I saw in A White Day, which is excellent. She was a very, very young girl, and then she was a little bit older in Godland, and now she's driving in The Love That Remains, which was a bit of a shock. I mean, I've basically seen that girl grow up because Cliona Palmerson keeps on casting her in his films, and this time, in addition to his daughter, his twin sons are also in the film. So yeah, Cliona Palmerson likes to keep it in the family, so to speak. And yeah, let's try and... I'll be fascinated to see if you can see the fireworks, but anyway, some production values. Oh yes, and also having a small role in this film, The Love That Remains, is Ingvar Sigurdsson, who's also the star of A White Day, and quite frankly, if there's any high-profile Icelandic film of the last decade or so, chances are Ingvar Sigurdsson's in it. I mean, he's that kind of actor. I mean, he's in everything in Iceland because he's a great actor. Very, very small role in this, but so for me, I think The Love That Remains, and I did really like A White Day and Godland to varying degrees, but I liked both of them. This one bothered me. It's one of those films that makes me say, why did we make a film of this? I mean, most of what this is a couple who have split up and their 3 children, and they're basically amicable. They basically get on with each other. So why are we watching them? I mean, there's a reason why the majority of feature films have some form of conflict, because it's dramatic, because it says something. This didn't really have drama. Now I'm starting to worry if the sound is going to be fucked up, because that's a lot of fireworks. Is that the big finale? Let's hope so, because yeah, well, I'll see about the audio later. I mean, I do have my little baffle which I've got this time, but anyway, there's a reason why most films have some form of conflict, because that's what drama is. That's what drama is presented to us as. It's conflict. There needs to be some kind of tension. There needs to be some kind of reason to watch this, to see this, to make a film about this. And quite honestly, I don't think there is much of one here. And instead of conflict, for some reason, Cliona Palmerson adds in touches of basically surrealism. I mean, there's a couple of very, very strange things which happen in this. which I think and I hope are supposed to be dream sequences. There's also a couple of instances, one very, very specific instance. I mean, there's so like a little vignette where the mother of the family, Saga something, is the actress. She is a visual artist, and a gallery owner has come over from Sweden. And there's a little vignette of the day that the mother spends with this gallery artist. And that goes some really dark and really disturbing places. I mean, surprisingly dark. I mean, that kind of came out of nowhere, and it's not the only sort of like dark and twisted thing which goes on here, but it's that little thing. I mean, there's a bit in there that's like, why did you go there? And I could say that about a lot of this film. I mean, why did you go there? Why is there these sort of like things which I think are supposed to be dream sequences, but they're never specifically called out as dream sequences? It just seems unnecessary. In a lot of levels, in a lot of ways, this seems unnecessary. I mean, it's well made, well acted. I mean, it is cool that, you know, he's got 3 siblings together, and some of the scenes clearly just feel like their father just shot them and see what would happen. I mean, it's got that naturalism to it, which is great, but then you chuck in all this surrealist stuff with, you know, giant dream chickens or dream roosters, which does make sense in the context of the film. Yeah, I do in general like the work of Lena Palmerson. This just didn't work for me really. I mean, it feels like a film that didn't need to be made, certainly not in the format, in the style that it was made. And it goes in so many different directions, and not the expected directions. I mean, and yes, there is something to be said for zigging when everybody else is zagging. Doing something very, very naturalistic about a split couple who are basically okay with each other. I mean, you don't always have to do the thing where, you know, the mother and the father are at each other's throats. You don't need to do that. I mean, there's a reason why you do that a lot, but if you are going to zig when everybody else is zagging, do something a little bit interesting with it. And I don't mean have giant dream chickens or dream roosters, more specifically. I don't know what this film was getting at. Honestly, I do not know what this film was getting at. So, yeah. I mean, it's well made and well acted and everything like that. And Lena Palmerson has built up some goodwill with his previous films, White White Day and Godland. With those are the 2 I've seen. I think he's had some other films as well, but those are the 2 I've seen. So, I mean, I think on my rating scale of Yay, Nay or Meh, it doesn't deserve an A. It's not bad enough to deserve an A, but it's a pretty, well, it's a completely dispassionate meh for The Love That Remains. And yeah, I don't think this is going to be a contender for the International Feature Oscar. So yeah, a dispassionate meh. Right, I've now got a little bit of time to kill before the second of tonight's films, which is going to be Bradley Cooper's film Is This Thing On? And I think, because by the time I get out it's going to be very dark, and like I said, I don't know Cambridge, I think I'm going to record my review of that in my tiny, tiny hotel room. So yes, the next time you see me will probably be in a Travelodge in Cambridge, on the Cambridge Ring Road. Right, so it is the end of night 1 at the Cambridge International Film Festival 2025. And as I suggested earlier, I am back in my tiny Travelodge room, which seems to basically overlook the part of the Cambridge Ring Road. but you get what you pay for, I guess. And yes, I'm recording with my tripod cum selfie stick, so there's a chance it's going to fall over. I mean, I bought this as part of my lighting rig. I mean, I've got one of my lights on this tripod when I record at home, but it converts into a selfie stick, which was handy when I started doing stuff, you know, in the field, so to speak. So yes, the second film on day one, and the middle film in this weekend was Bradley Cooper's film Is This Thing On?, which is somewhat inspired by the story of John Bishop. Now, I don't know what the split is of people who watch these videos, my videos, but they seem to be mostly Americans, so there's a chance you don't know who John Bishop is. John Bishop is one of Britain's great stand-up comedians. He's very, very popular. He's had sold-out shows, sold-out concert DVDs or specials. He presents a lot of stuff on TV. He's a great stand-up.
Because women, you're still interested in clothes. You still have programmes on the television that are interested in you and fashion. You've still got magazines that are interested in what you wear. You've got each other. You've got your friends. No one in this room has ever seen two blokes in the 40s in a shop saying, hey, I tell you what, Barry, that looks lovely on you.
But American listeners or viewers, there's a decent chance that you might actually know him better from his brief stint on Doctor Who.
But I hear some kind of automated staff. How does this work?
Desist, do not approach.
I get a friendlier voice, though. This one's a little bit grating.
What kind of a welcome is that? Hey,
I'll report you to your manager. Daleks do not have managers.
Yeah, well, maybe that's part of your problem.
Artron energy particles detected. You are a friend of the Doctor. Analysis concludes this is a delaying tactic.
Took you long enough.
Exterminate!
So he did that as well. But yeah, John Bishop is a very, very popular comedian in the UK. And Will Arnett got chatting with him. I think they were both guests on the Graham Norton show. I think that's how the story goes. But somehow Will Arnett and John Bishop met. And Will Arnett, oh yes, I should say, I'm representing my hometown of Bath. I'm planning on doing this for all my trips around the country. Yeah. There's no reason why somebody from Bath should be in Cambridge today, but here I am. So yes. And once again, this is the correct pattern, blue, black, white, in even stripes. And it doesn't have the name of that Brexiteering wanker James Dyson on it. So, yes, representing Bath. But, so yes, Will Arnett and John Bishop met somewhere. I think it might have been Graham Norton. And Will Arnett thought, wow, John Bishop has a really fascinating story, because John Bishop didn't get started in comedy until very, very late in life, into the sort of serious middle age. He was, I believe he was an executive at a pharmaceutical company or a marketing manager or something. He worked for a pharmaceutical company, yeah, 9 to 5, suit and tie job. And when his marriage started going through difficulties, he ended up as a stand-up comedian. Now, I'll be surprised if it's as random as it is in the film, because Will Arnett's character just randomly starts this for no good reason.
And I walked up to the door thinking it would be a full comedy club. And the guy on the door said to me, it's £4 to get in, but it's free if you put your name down. And I said, put my name down for what? He said, it's an open mic night. And I genuinely didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
He said, that means you put your name down, and if your name gets called out, you get on stage. And because I'd only been to 2 comedy clubs that had always been full, I thought, well, there'll be 200 people, they'll never get to me.
It did happen. And, you know, John Bishop went on to become, as I said, one of the leading stand-ups in the UK at the moment. And Will Arnett thought this was a good story and said, okay, let's make a film of this. And John Bishop is credited as a story by, and he is an executive producer on this film. So, I mean, it is, you know, very much inspired by the life of John Bishop, but it is directed by Bradley Cooper and stars Will Arnett. And I'm not exactly sure what I was expecting from this film. I was certainly curious about it because it kind of entered the race very, very late. Because, I mean, as I've said in previous videos, for the majority of this Oscar season, the contender for Searchlight was thought to be Rental Family. And then that kind of died off. And then right at the last minute, Bradley Cooper actually finished Is This Thing On? He got it edited in time. And not in time for any of the major film festivals, but well, I suppose NIF, the New York Film Festival, is kind of a major film festival, but it's kind of second tier. And it was the closing night film of NIF, the New York Film Festival. So it might have been being worked on, being edited right up to the last minute, but he managed to finish it. And then, you know, maybe this is going to be Searchlight's big push, and then of course they bought The Testament of Anne Lee, so that's probably going to be the push. But either way, I mean, it does have the Searchlight prestige behind it, and it's certainly one of the films that Searchlight could push. I think they're going to push this film more than Rental Family now. I mean, I saw Rental Family at the Bath Film Festival, and I liked it. I just don't think it's an Oscar contender. I think this is more of an Oscar contender, but I still think it's going to struggle because I actually really like this film. I mean, I as I said, I didn't know what I was going to get out of it, what to expect from it, but I enjoyed it. I mean, it has that story. I mean, it has, you know, a man who, I mean, Will Arnett gets described by his wife / ex-wife. They're in the process of separating. Laura Dern describes him as dead, and she's not entirely joking. I mean, this is a man with no verve, with no passion. And Laura Dern's the same. I mean, this marriage has had difficulties, is in the process of breaking up. Both are to blame, I think. And that's one of the crucial factors in this film. It is that both Will Arnett and Laura Dern have their things. And they just weren't working on it. And randomly, completely randomly, I mean, that's one of the issues I have with this film is just how random it is that Will Arnett ends up at an open mic night for stand-up comedians. But once he starts, he realizes, oh, I actually like this. I'm good at this, maybe. It's something that gives my life meaning, gives my life verve. And you know, with this new lease on life, maybe his marriage isn't so broken after all. And equally, Laura Dern, over the course of the film, she has something in her background that says, you know, I let my dreams die, essentially. I mean, my dreams were over, and I thought I was okay with being a wife and mother, and I kind of aren't. And she becomes to realise that as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think both of these people in this marriage have issues, and over the course of the film, they rediscover their spark. They rediscover something to get passionate about, and maybe that's enough to bring them together. But quite frankly, I think none of this would have happened. I think this entire film wouldn't have happened if this married couple had a truckload of couples therapy. I mean, that's all they needed. They just need to talk to each other. They just need to express to each other what they're feeling. And they don't. They never do. I mean, arguably, throughout the course of the film, they don't. But, I mean, the things do come to light. Things are brought out into the open. I think maybe it would have been healthier in a more therapeutic setting. But yeah, I mean, a truckload of couples counselling is what was needed here. But, I mean, they found a weird way to deal with this. I mean, Will Arnett finding his way to stand-up comedy and Laura Dern finding her way back to her passion from her youth. And it kind of works. So yeah, I mean, I think the performances in this film, I think both Will Arnett as leading actor and Laura Dern as supporting actress, I think both are actually really, really good. Don't think either of them have got a chance at an actual Oscar nomination, but in my personal deliberations, I think both Will Arnett and Laura Dern are worthy of consideration. I think this is a very well acted film. I don't think it's very well directed. I think Bradley Cooper got out of hand a little bit with this one. There is a lot of extreme close-up. And for certain situations, that does work. I mean, like when Will Arnett's on stage, I mean, he's nervous. He doesn't quite know what he's saying. So the camera is really, handheld right in his face. And that kind of works. But that is a style that continues throughout the course of the film, and it doesn't entirely work in every situation it's used in. So yeah, I don't think the direction was great. The script is okay. I mean, obviously the gags, I mean, a lot of it seems to be improvised. I mean, sort of like genuine comedians talking about their history, talking about why they got into it, and discussing with the newbie Will Arnett. There's a lot of genuine dialogue in this, and I mean, as I said, I think there are one or two things in the script which do stretch credulity a little bit. So the script not great either, but the acting from the two leads, I mean, from Laura Dern and from Will Arnett, both excellent. Yeah, and then we come to an acting performance that made me say out loud in the screen, "What?" I mean, not loud enough for people to hear, but I did say "what" in the screen. There's a small role, maybe you could even argue a cameo towards the end of the film, from Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, legendary NFL quarterback, Super Bowl champion, Hall of Fame inductee. He's a giant media personality right now in the United States. He and his brother Eli do the Manning cast for Monday Night Football. As the game's going on, they just have fun with each other and have guests on. It's sort of like an alternative, just hanging out with famous people. The Manning cast is very, very popular. And I mean, he does really, really annoying adverts as well. There's one that I've been seeing a lot recently, which is really starting to piss me off. I mean, that point where you see an advert so much you just want to punch somebody. Well, that's Peyton Manning. I mean, Peyton Manning is a sporting legend.
Long ball to go to Harrison like last time he got picked. Here he's going long, and a man wide open. It's Wayne at the 15. He walks in. 53 yards for the touchdown.
How about that? Peyton Manning buying just a little extra time in the pocket.
Every employee was brought down, from the
Janitors.
cafeteria staff, janitorial staff, grounds crew. They're all here to see the Colts of Indianapolis win Super Bowl 41.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting Peyton Manning for enshrinement into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Archie Manning.
I feel like I should be at this game. I should be live, supporting my former team, but instead, I'm with you, staring at your ugly mug for the next 3 hours. But
hey, that guard's got to get his hand more on the butt. He's got to get it up in there a little more. He's not pushing hard enough.
He didn't get a push.
Yeah, pre-snap, he's got to have his hand on the butt and then go. Right? He's waiting. He's got no space.
The quarterback.
No chance that's going to work. You got to push the right butt cheek specifically. Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're also one of America's largest financial services companies, too. Just like I'm so much more than Peyton Manning. I'm also motivating Manning. I want everyone here to know that you, too, can be so much more.
But to the best of my knowledge, this is his first, acting gig. I mean, because he's not playing Peyton Manning, he's playing a character. This is Peyton Manning acting as somebody else. And he doesn't quite pull it off. I mean, he's okay. I mean, he did very well on Saturday Night Live whenever he hosted that. I mean, the fact that he hosted it at all maybe says something. I mean, he is a charismatic guy. He does have presence. I don't think he quite pulled off the acting. But what the fuck was Peyton Manning doing in this film, not playing Peyton Manning? I mean, if it was a cameo as Peyton Manning, that would be one thing. But he's playing a character. What? So yeah, that was one of the weirder experiences I've had in a cinema for a while. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a decent, it's a good film, well acted by the two leads, directed a bit messily, and I don't think it's really a strong contender for the Oscars, but I enjoyed myself a lot with this one. So I think on my scale of yay, nay, I'm actually going to give Is This Thing On a yay. I enjoyed myself. I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed myself, because I do genuinely think there's some great acting in this from both Will Arnett and Laura Dern. So that's enough for a yay in my book. Right, so it's late Saturday night. I barely got any sleep last night, but I'm still going to try and download Match of the Day onto my phone and watch it. And then tomorrow morning, I'll probably try and find something historical to film in Cambridge that isn't too far out of my way. It's going to be really, really tight after the second film. I'm probably going to give my review of the second film back in Bath, because my schedule is so tight getting home. But yeah, I'll probably talk more about that tomorrow. So yes, I guess I'll see you tomorrow morning, and it will probably be somewhere kind of historic. So, it's been a weird morning, which I'll get onto in a minute, but as promised last night, I have come to one of the more recognisable and historic places in Cambridge. That is King's College Chapel. Although chapel is putting things a little bit mildly, isn't it? It was started to be built in 1446, only a few years after King's College, which I think is that one. Might be, I'm not sure. But King's College was started in 1441. The chapel was started in 1446. and completed about a century later by Henry VIII. There are a couple of reasons why it took so long. I mean, firstly, it takes a long time to build sort of like Gothic cathedrals like that, or churches, chapels. And secondly, a little thing called the War of the Roses was happening at the time as well. So, I don't blame them for taking a century to finish it. But I mean, as well as being one of the most recognisable sites of Cambridge, to the extent it's the logo of Cambridge City Council, it also has a little bit of a cultural footprint as well. I mean, every year the BBC broadcasts a Christmas service, 9 carols and lessons from King's College Chapel. They've been doing it for decades, maybe even a century. I mean, the actual service, the 9 carols and lessons, was started here in Cambridge in 1918. So they've been doing it for a long time, and the BBC broadcasts it every year. And yes, I am 100% a confirmed atheist, but every year me and my brother and my mother watch the 9 carols and lessons service from King's College, with its world famous acoustics and its world famous choir as well. So yes, that is the chapel of King's College. So yes, that's the fun stuff out of the way, and now the not so fun stuff. I woke up this morning and I looked at my phone, and because I fell asleep last night watching Match of the Day, my phone still had the BBC website on. It was playing BBC News, where it said that there had been a major incident on a train in Cambridgeshire.
10 people are in hospital, 9 with life-threatening injuries after a mass stabbing on a train in Cambridgeshire on Saturday evening. Police have declared a major incident and say 2 men have been arrested. Counter-terror officers are helping police in the investigation. The incident took place on the 1825 LNER service from Doncaster to London's King's Cross. After passengers alerted staff to an incident on board, the train made an unscheduled stop at Huntingdon station, around 20 miles from Peterborough, where it was met by the emergency services. Now, this was part of that immediate response by the emergency services, which included armed police officers and a fleet of ambulances. Passengers on board the train have reported people shouting that a man had a knife and that multiple people were bleeding.
Last I checked, the train is still in Huntingdon train station, and services, unsurprisingly, for LNER are going to be delayed. So I'm a little bit concerned of whether I'm going to be able to get out of Cambridge tonight. I mean, fortunately, or ironically maybe, I'm not actually leaving Cambridge on LNER railways. I'm leaving on Greater Anglia railways, going to Liverpool Street, which was a risky proposition, but I mean, I wanted to be frugal. I wanted to get the cheapest ticket, and the cheapest ticket that fit in with my screenings was to Liverpool Street, which means I've got a very, very short window from my second film to the Cambridge train station. Then from Liverpool Street to London Victoria, I've got a very tight window, and then London Victoria rail station to the coach station. And Google Maps says it's possible it's going to take half an hour, but there's a 15-minute window, and I'm not sure how well I'm going to make it. And now that the train services have been disrupted, I'm even less sure about whether I'm actually going to make it home tonight. So there's a non-zero chance I'm going to have to spend the night in London tonight, which I have contingencies for. But yeah, that's an expense I wasn't planning on having. I mean, it was already risky getting a cheap ticket and having such tight schedule getting home, but now it's even in more disarray. But yes, that's concerns for later in the night. I mean, right now my concern is the first film of the day. I will see you later after I have watched my first film on my second day here at the Cambridge International Film Festival 2025. So, I am back on Parker's piece, the common which I recorded the fireworks from. In fact, I'm basically in exactly the same position I recorded the fireworks from the other day. They were just behind me over there from Jesus' piece. So yes, this is Parker's piece in the daylight, and yes, now I've done a little bit of research of one interesting thing about that helicopter go. One claim to fame that this little common in Cambridge has is that it can claim to be the birthplace of football, because this was where the Cambridge University Football Club laws were used, which were eventually adopted by the Football Association, and therefore association football was born. So you can argue that this is the first place that football was played, and by football I mean the worldwide meaning of football, not the American version of football. But anyway, yes, it's a sunny Sunday afternoon with lots of people on bicycles, lots of people walking around, and I've just come out of the first of today's films, which was the Zodiac Killer Project. And this was a film I basically added at the last minute. Initially, I only bought 3 tickets to the Cambridge International Film Festival, but I thought, well, I'm going to be here, I may as well make most of it, and I thought that this was the best option of what was available. A documentary about the failure to make a true crime documentary about the Zodiac Killer, by this guy called Charlie Shackleton, and it's actually a pretty good film. It has a really interesting tone. I mean, I think what this is more than anything, or what I take out of it more than anything, is a sense that true crime documentaries have become a formula, have become a pattern in and of themselves. And that's kind of what Charlie Shackleton is trying to say with this movie, definitely. And it also seems to be what he was going to be doing with what he intended the original documentary to be. I mean, basically what happened is he read this true crime book about somebody saying, yeah, I know who the Zodiac Killer is, and became fascinated by it, wanted to do a documentary about it, and was in the process of buying the rights to this book when all of a sudden the family pulled out, and he wasn't able to get the rights to the book, and therefore the original documentary as he intended it never happened. Instead, what he did is, this is the film I would have made. And there's a lot of that. I mean, basically this is kind of a video essay more than anything. It's a lot of Charlie Shackleton giving voiceover over a lot of the B-roll he shot in Northern California. In doing so, he's basically having something of an indictment of the true crime documentary industry as a whole. Time and again he says, oh, this documentary did it this way, this documentary did it this way, this documentary did it this way, and it's all basically the same. He's very good at letting clips of these famous and notorious true crime documentaries on Netflix and and HBO, and saying, you know, the same kinds of things happen in all these documentaries, and why aren't we acknowledging this? Why aren't we addressing this? It's actually quite striking when he puts little montages together of all the things, or all these incidents which happen in these documentaries, and they're all exactly the same. And I think that is a commentary that Charlie Shackleton is making in this film. And like I said, I also think this is a commentary that he would have been making in the original film as he intended to make it, because using this B-roll, using these sort of like shots of empty parking lots and shots of churches and whatever that would have been part of this documentary, in doing so, he is also indicting the filmmaking process itself, because, I mean, time and again, you have a situation where, oh yes, here is this mysterious house where the supposed killer lived, and then he says, oh yeah, well, this isn't the actual house, the actual house isn't nearly creepy enough, so we shot this one instead. You know, we're going to the police station, but of course this isn't the police station, it's a library, because, you know, you can't film in police stations. And time and again saying these things that he is manufacturing what we expect a true crime documentary to feel like, to look like, and that I think was always part of the intention. I mean, there's even a bit where he says one of the characters in the true crime story is a Methodist pastor. And he says, oh yes, I see, you know, the gun going into the clerical robes and everything. Do Methodists wear clerical robes? Oh, well, ours do. You know, just showing this is what he expects, this is what he wants to show the true crime documentary as being. It's striking. I mean, basically being a deconstruction, in more ways than one, of the true crime documentary. And personally speaking, I found that really fascinating. I mean, and whilst saying that, I acknowledge that this is not going to be a film for everybody. There were several walkouts during the course of this film, and a quick look on IMDb when I decided to buy a ticket to this. The IMDb reviews have not been good, or at least the ones that I read. So, I mean, there are certain people who really will not get on with this film at all. But if you take out of it, this idea of deconstructing the formula, I mean, because true crime documentaries have become a formula, even in the way they look. I mean, there's one really striking sequence where the opening credits of lots of these different true crime documentaries are played side by side, and they kind of look identical, and that's the point that Charlie Shackleton is trying to make. I mean, he also goes into the ethics of this kind of thing. I mean, making comments and giving opprobrium to, I mean, really, really well-known documentaries like Paradise Lost and The Jinx, saying, you know, what they were doing in these films is just not ethical. They shouldn't have done that. And these are, you know, really well-watched, really well-respected true crime documentaries. And yet, according to Charlie Shackleton, they were being completely unethical. And you see his point. So, yeah, it's not a film that I think finds an easy niche. I mean, particularly because the case that this documentary would have been about, I mean, everybody knows the Zodiac case, but this specific book, I think the guy was just a nutter. I think the book that Charlie Shackleton wanted to make a true crime documentary about, I think the guy was just a nutter. He has this sort of like very, very brief incident in a parking lot, and he convinced he was a highway patrol officer, chips, whatever, California Highway Patrol officer, and he has this brief encounter, a striking encounter with this guy in a parking lot, and he is convinced now that this guy is the Zodiac killer. Really? Oh yes, he's creepy, he's got creepy eyes, and in the 1970s he was bisexual as well, which quickly becomes apparent, so that's something, a black mark against him. But really, there's so little evidence that this guy was actually the Zodiac, and yet this highway patrol officer spends years trying to prove that this guy is the Zodiac, and I think he was a bit of a nutter, as Charlie Shackleton himself says. I mean, he says at one point, yeah, this guy probably wasn't Zodiac, but it would have made a great documentary. It would have made a great entry into this pantheon of true crime documentaries, which all look exactly the same, doing it all in exactly the same way. Why can't I do that as well? And I think, yeah, this works as a deconstruction of true crime documentaries, even of documentaries itself. I mean, the ways that he openly talks about manipulating the imagery that he would have had, these B-roll, and openly talks about how he would have manipulated it to make it look right in this true crime documentary format. I mean, I think it's bold and it's striking. It worked for me. I fully admit that it will not work for many people, but for me personally, I actually like this one. I actually like this one a lot. So for me, I think the Zodiac Killer Project is a yay on my scale of yay, nay or meh. Right, so got a bit of time to relax, got a bit of time to eat before my final film of the Cambridge Film Festival, which is the Palestinian Jordanian film All That's Left of You. And then it's going to be a madcap rush to try and get home, because my schedule home is very, very tight. It was always going to be tight, and it's only going to be made more complicated, or possibly going to be made more complicated by the awful events on the Doncaster-London train last night. I suspect that the next time I record it will be all the way back in Bath, because I just don't think I'll have the time, because I need to go straight to Cambridge station, then from Cambridge to Liverpool Street, and then from Liverpool Street to Victoria, and then from Victoria train station to Victoria coach station. And getting to Liverpool Street shouldn't be too bad, except for the fact there might be delays because of what happened last night. But once I get into London, I've got 45 minutes to get from Liverpool Street train station to Victoria coach station, and Google Maps says that journey's half an hour, so it's 15 minutes. That's not enough wiggle room for my taste, but hopefully I will make it to my coach on time. And once I get on the coach and once I get back home to Bath, I will be able to record my thoughts of All That's Left of You. So I suspect that the next time I see you, I will be back home in Bath, and it will be probably Monday morning by the time I actually record. But if I make it home, if I don't, I'll probably stay in London. And yeah, I can kill a day in London. There's at least one film that would make sense for me to watch in London. But anyway, we'll see what happens when the little editing thing happens. I suspect, well, I hope it's going to be me in Bath, but let's find out. So I did make it back to Bath. It's actually Monday morning now. Turns out I spent the day worrying over not a lot, which is something I tend to do. The tragedy on the Doncaster-London train on Saturday night didn't seem to affect the train schedules by the time I actually got there to Cambridge railway station. About 6:30 it was. And then the journey from Liverpool Street to Victoria and then on to Victoria Coach Station did take half an hour. And the train wasn't delayed, so I had enough time to do that, which ended up not mattering too much because the coach ended up leaving a full half hour late, which is why it's now Monday morning when the coach was supposed to get in at 11:30. I mean, I cured my starvation by deigning to eat a McDonald's for the first time in decades, because that's the only thing that's open at this time on a Sunday, or it was Sunday. And now I'm sitting in Memorial Gardens, which is a tiny little bit of green in the centre of Bath, which I'm not sure if you can see that, but it has a tribute statue to people who were killed on the roads. Never quite understood that one, but I think that's why this is called Memorial Gardens. But yeah, so several hours ago I watched the Jordanian Oscar submission, All That's Left of You. And before I go any further, I do want to address that factor, because this is a film by an American filmmaker who identifies herself as Palestinian and is identified as Palestinian by the general public, even though she does have a Jordanian mother. But she is American. I mean, she's worked behind the scenes on things like Only Murders in the Building and The L Word. And she's an actress as well. I mean, she appears in this film. And I also noticed that she's in the Swedish Oscar submission this year, which is by an Egyptian Swedish director. He has done stuff in the past like The Boy from Heaven. His new film, Eagles of the Republic, is set in Egypt. And Cherry Abyss is in that as well as an actress. And she directed this and is an actress in this. So, yeah, I mean, but she's American. And yes, Jordanian mother, but she's American, and the financing for this film was from Germany and Cyprus. And a lot of the filming was done in Jordan, because a lot of filming in the Middle East does get done in Jordan, because for that part of the world, it's a very stable and friendly government. If you want desert, the safest place to shoot is Jordan. So, yeah, they shot in Jordan and Cyprus and various other places. So is this a Jordanian film with a director with a Jordanian mother and partially shot in Jordan? I maintain that's not enough. So I don't think this should have been submitted, but well, I don't think this should have been accepted by the Academy as a Jordanian entry to the international Oscar race. I mean, I have issues with many of the films which did end up getting accepted, as I've complained about in several of these videos, these film festival videos I've been doing. And I do have an issue with this one, which is not to say I think this is a bad film. In fact, I think this is a very, very good film. I think in a lot of ways it's rather straightforward, but it's none the worse for that. I mean, basically what we have here is an epic. It was described as an epic, and it feels like an epic. It's 3 generations of a Palestinian family as, the Nakba happens and they get pushed out of their home in Jaffa and end up in a refugee camp in Nablus, and generations, years spent in this refugee camp in Nablus. Everything that happens to this family, the horrors and the traumas of just being Palestinian, being an outsider in your own country, having issues upon issues upon issues piled on top of you, and the indignities of it. This is arguably somewhat straightforward, maybe even you could say simplistic, but I think it needs to be that. It's one of those situations where I've seen enough films from this part of the world and I've heard enough stories from this part of the world that I kind of knew that all of these things that happen in this film do happen. I know that. But to have it in one film and have it happen to one family over these 3 generations, it kind of all it encapsulates in a very perfect, in a very profound way, everything that is the trauma of simply being Palestinian, being an outsider in your own country. And I think we kind of need that. I think this film did do well at Sundance, and at the time I thought that Palestine might actually submit this, but they actually submitted a film called Palestine 36 by Anne-Marie Jassier, who's a brilliant filmmaker. Some of her previous films are excellent, including Wajib, which I might be talking about in a minute, because 2 of the actors from Wajib are also in this. And actually I'll be able to see Palestine 36 on general release next week, or the week after, soon anyway. So yeah, looking forward to that, because I really do like the work of Anne-Marie Jassier. So yeah, that's what Palestine actually submitted, and Jordan was allowed to submit this, which I just don't think they should have been allowed to do. But it is a good film, and the more people who get the opportunity to see it, the more people who will see it, simply because it's on that list. I'm one of those people, and I'm sure there's hundreds, if not thousands of people out there who will watch a film because it's on the submission list. So the more people who get to see this film, the better. And it's clearly an emotive subject. In the screening with clearly there were people of Arab heritage in this screening in Cambridge, and they, as the end credits rolled, they started out a chant of free Palestine, free Palestine, which was quite extraordinary, really. But it is that kind of film. It is emotive. It gets to the heart of these issues and manages to show in very direct ways these issues, these traumas. And particularly, there's one incident which I think is the key of this. This is set up as a series of vignettes. It's in 1948 during the Nakba, 1978, and then 1988 during the Intifada. And there's a frame device, there's a little bit at the beginning and a little bit at the end, which is set in 2022. So we get the whole scope of Palestinian history. And in the middle one, in 1978, there's an incident which happens to the father of this family who we saw as a little boy in the 1948 segment, where he just gets fucked about with by Israeli soldiers. Basically bored teenagers with heavy machine guns just decide to fuck with him and threaten to kill him in front of his 10, 11-year-old son, and they might actually do it, and they might actually get away with it. That's the horror of this. They're bored, they've got guns, they feel powerful, they're going to fuck with this guy, and they might actually kill him. And that's kind of the crux of this whole situation, and the way it affects the father, and also the way it affects the 10-year-old son, who we then in the 1988 segment see as a teenager, and that's kind of the that's where the title of the film comes from, and I might get back to that in a minute. But I mean, this incident had just been fucked about with by 4 Israeli soldiers and being absolutely, utterly helpless to do anything about it. How that affects the father, how that affects the son, it's very palpable to see. And yeah, I think that's in a lot of ways the core scene of this entire film. It's just these 4 Israeli soldiers fucking with this Palestinian guy and his son because they can. And if they don't get you with the guns, they get you with the bureaucracy. Because there's an incident which happens in 1988 with the teenage boy who had the boy at this incident is a teenager in 1988. And something happens and he urgently needs to go into Israel from the West Bank. And he can't. I mean, the paperwork needs to be absolutely perfect for this, Palestinian to move into Haifa, into Israel. And he's just not allowed to. And the delay of that very probably has severe consequences. And that's just what happens. I mean, if they don't get you with their AK-47s, they're going to get you with their paperwork. But either way, they're going to get you. And it's your own country. And that's kind of the point of this film. It's a country not theirs, a country that was taken from them. And yeah, in this third segment, in the 1988 segment, I mean, as I said, there's a major incident that happens and the teenage boy needs to go to Israel. And that kind of gives the film its title. But another thing it does is it brings up a really, really fascinating moral quandary and ethical dilemma, which has almost nothing to do with the fact it's Palestine versus Israel. This would be a knotty, a thorny problem in any country, in any situation. And the discussions that are had about it are actually kind of fascinating. So that's another thing I appreciate about this film, is the fact that, as well as the obvious Israel versus Palestine stuff, there's some ethical and moral quandaries and dilemmas which get discussed in this 1988 segment, and I think discussed really, really well. So yeah, that was a pleasant surprise. I mean, the quality and the thought that went into it, quite apart from the Israel versus Palestine stuff. So yeah, that was something that definitely impressed me. What else? I mean, I did have to make notes because, like I said, this was several hours ago. So what else? Oh yeah, and another thing which kept coming to mind was a constant idea in all of these sections. I mean, from 48, 78 and 88, stated from this Palestinian family about the occupying Israeli forces. I mean, surely they can't win. Surely the bad guys aren't going to win. Surely they can't keep this occupation going indefinitely. They must give it up at some point. And we as an audience know, no, they're not. They're going to keep on trying to do it. But that attitude, that thought process of surely they can't keep getting away with it. And yet they do, yet they have. And the mindset of the Palestinian people. I mean, you've got an older generation who lived in pre-Israel Palestine and was excluded. I mean, the generation who grew up outside that, and then the third generation who has sort of like the dream, the idea of Palestine, and they want armed struggle, armed resistance to try and get it back, which at the end of the day probably isn't healthy, probably isn't helping. But the different generations and the different attitudes they have about what Palestine means and what Israel means is quite significant. And that's actually something which was brought up in Anne-Marie Jassir's film Wajib, which stars Mohammed Bakri and his son Saleh Bakri.
اهلا ابو شاد. احنا مش جايين نزعجكم بس حابين تشاركونا على عروس امان. بس الواجب واجب.
يسلموا ايديك.
سايقين بعدنا عم نوزع المكاتيب. بعد لنا بس 340 مكتوب. مجبورين بيت بيت على الطريقة النصراوية. يا ريتك معنا هون.
حالك ساكن مع سلمان؟
اسمها ندى يابا.
كيف امريكا؟
ايطاليا.
يلا بهمش. ابوك حكى لنا انه عم بفكر ترجع مزبوط؟
لهون؟ لا.
في مستشفيات كتير منيحة هون.
أنا أركيتكت.
يعني مهندس عمار.
يعني هو بفكرني دكتور. يعني كذبت عليه.
أنت بتعرف أبو رامي.
And Wajib is an excellent film. And I bring it up here because the patriarch of this family is played by Mohammed Bakri. In the 78 and 88 segments, he is sort of like the patriarch, he is the grandfather. His son is played by Saleh Bakri, and as a younger man, Mohammed Bakri's character in the 1948 segment is played by Adam Bakri. So two of his sons are in this film playing a younger version of himself and his son. And yeah, keep it in the family, I guess, but all of them are very, very talented. I mean, I've seen them do other things. But yeah, I think it was kind of cool that three different members of the same family were playing parts of this family. And the director, Cherry Bis, plays the wife of Saleh Bakri in the 78 and 88 segments. And indeed the 2022 segments with, you know, grey hair, makeup and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, two generations of the Bakri family playing three different roles, and three generations of trauma. And yeah, I think this is one of those films that's necessary. I think there are people out there who might not fully know, might not fully want to know the kinds of things that Palestinians have to go through on a regular basis. But this is the kind of film which is kind of a primer, an introduction maybe into what it is like to be a Palestinian, what it has been like to be a Palestinian for pushing 100 years now, or 80 odd years, whatever it is. It's been a very, very long time. And when people see this film, and I hope people do see this film, it will teach them something about the struggle, about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and the interminable conflict which is going on right now, because it very much looks like the best peace deal ever that Donald Trump put together is already falling apart. It was about a month now. It's probably never going to be solved until there is a two-state solution. That's the only way that anything is going to be solved. But as long as Netanyahu and his ilk are in charge of Israel, that's just not going to happen. So there we go. But this is the kind of film which teaches people who might not be willing or able to hear or learn that kind of thing. This will be a digestible way for them to be introduced to it. So yeah, I mean, I think it is kind of straightforward and kind of direct, but it's kind of necessary. And yeah, I do think it's a really, really great film, but on my scale of yay, nay or meh, I think I can basically give it a really high meh. I don't think this is a transcendent film. I think it's a very good film and a very necessary film. So for me, I would say that All That's Left of You is a very, very high meh. Right, so sitting here in Bath, that brings me to the end of this video about the Cambridge International Film Festival. And yeah, got to go home, and I've got about 10 hours worth of NFL football to watch, and possibly Sunday's match of the day, but my brother's probably gone to bed by now. Yes, I've got lots and lots of American football to watch when I get home, so I better go home and do that. And yeah, next week I'm going to the Leeds International Film Festival. That's coming up next Friday. I'm spending 3 days in Leeds. And yeah, that's the next video in this series. But until then, if you've watched this far into the video, maybe I deserve a like. You can also leave a comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, anything which helps the algorithm, anything which helps promote this tiny little channel. But other than that, all that remains for me to say is this has been a presentation of the Yay, Nay or Meh channel, and I will see you next time where I shine a light on TV and cinema, both obvious and obscure.